What's that? Welcome everyone. The hour being 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. The Tooele City Council and the Redevelopment Agency are meeting in a work meeting. This meeting is being held at Tooele City Hall in the council chambers located at 90 North Main Street. This is also being broadcast on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with a roll call. Councilwoman Manzione.
Present.
Councilman Graff.
Present.
Councilman Hanson.
Present.
Councilman McCall.
Present.
I'm Councilman Brady. I'm also present. We'll move on to item 3, which is the mayor's report.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. I have a couple of items for you tonight. The first is, you are all well aware, and so are most people aware, that there's been an environmental study going on that UDOT has been conducting for the second portion, or the last portion of the Mid-Valley Highway. The environmental assessment is almost complete, and to make that complete, they needed to hold some public hearings, or some public comment periods is what it is. And they did come to the city and held their last meeting with the stakeholders in the county leadership, which was a good meeting, and they explained a lot of things about this environmental study. So we are urging people that have a concern, or even just want to learn more about where the new proposed route will be, and they can go to the website listed above, udot.utah.gov/midvalley. And there is, for those who don't want to go to the internet, but they want to just email in their information, or they can also call and make a comment. So that information is listed there above. The comment period is open until October 10th, 2023. That is next Tuesday. So anybody that wants to make a comment, that either likes it or doesn't like it or has a comment about it, that is the place that you reply to. And they do read every comment and consider each comment that is made. So we urge everyone to do that. The next item that I have is, I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by a resident that lives in RDA that had a concern about mosquitoes, and Channel 5 was contacted, and I was contacted by Channel 5. They asked some questions, and I replied to those. I didn't see the news story on the news, but I saw it later on their website, and to me, it kind of seemed like they made it kind of look like that Tooele City and Tooele County are the only ones with mosquitoes. I'm sure that is not the case. This year, we have heard statewide that because of the water, there is a lot of mosquitoes, and the question came up as to whether there are a lot more mosquitoes because Tooele City is not a member of the Tooele Valley Mosquito Abatement District. So I know that 2 years ago, 2021, we brought this issue to you as a council, and you did discuss it. We also brought in leadership of the abatement district to present to you, and at the time you decided that maybe we could do something else and use the current budget we have rather than add an additional tax to our resident. So since then, we have been treating the lakes down at the Overlake Golf Course and also our treatment plant, the reclamation plant. We have been treating those twice a year on the lakes at the golf course and at our treatment plant 3 times a year. The cost to do each of those treatments are just a little over $11,000. We believe that it has helped. It really did help that first year. This year is awful for everybody. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of an update on what I've learned. I know more about mosquitoes now than I ever cared to find out about. And a mosquito, once the eggs are laid and they hit water, they are an adult in about a week. That's how quickly it happens. You probably could watch it happen so quick. Obviously, it is the female that lays the eggs. Females live a little bit longer than the males do. They could live 2-3 weeks. Some of them, if they're in the right temperature, can live up to 6 months. But let me tell you what a female mosquito can do. They only need to mate once, and they can lay 100 eggs every 2 to 3 days, and they can do that about 3 times before they normally die. That's a lot. That is a lot. So as long as they can get blood, they have to have blood. That's why they bite you, to get that blood. And then as soon as they get enough blood in them, then they can go and lay the eggs. And that's how this happens. So I thought it was very interesting to find out that the CDC had on their website about mosquitoes hating the smell of lavender, citronella, clove, peppermint, basil, cedarwood. There's a whole list of other smells they don't like. I kind of wondered how they found that out, but I don't know that they asked them. Smoke is another thing they don't like, but as I learned a little bit about mosquitoes, and there's lots of them, and there can be lots more very, very quickly. So I did also look on the website for the Mosquito Abatement District just to find out what they do. They do what we do in treating the large bodies of water, or really any body of water that they can find, with the chemical or whatever it is that they treat them with. And they tell on their website the name, and I've looked them all up, and I've looked up what we use. And basically, it is to kill those eggs and kill those mosquitoes before they turn into the adults. So it's kind of a quick turnaround because of how fast, but this can stay in the water and last for a month or more, what they put in these large bodies of water. In fact, I even spoke with a member of the board of the Mosquito Abatement District, and just recently they have purchased a couple of drones that they can fly over now and see any puddle of water. And then the drone, they can fly it in and put that chemical right in that little puddle of water. For their residents who seem to have a bigger problem right at their home, they can call, and the district can come out and do a couple of things. They recommend that if they want to buy a bait box, those seem to work. Some people can put that on their property. Or they have a fog machine that basically is a fog machine, and the fog goes out, and the bugs that are in that fog, it will kill them. It's not going to kill outside the fog, but what's in the fog. So this statement is on the Mosquito Abatement website. Please know that we are here to control the mosquito population, not eliminate it. It's impossible. It is impossible to eliminate. I think they're doing a great job as far as they have the control. We know that some of those that live in the district pay that tax, and they still have mosquitoes because that's the way that it goes. But I did want to mention to you that we did look at the numbers again to join the district. If you decided that that was something that you wanted to do on a home that's valued at $404,000, an average at this point, this is the median, it would be $44.22 per year to each of those property owners. Of course, it's more for business, and if your home is worth more or less, you adjust that. With the district's tax rate, if Tooele City joined the district, it would create about $630,000 is what that tax would create to go to the district to treat the mosquitoes. I'm sure all of us would like to have another $630,000 in our budget, but I believe that with the costs that we have put into the project, that I'm going to recommend for next year's budget to double that and make it about $45,000, and that we treat 4 times a year instead of the 2 times that we have at the lakes. We will still probably do 3, 4, maybe even 5 treatments at the reclamation, but I believe that that will will help, especially in a year that has as wet a year as we've had, which we really do hope that we have another winter like we did last year. But again, looking at our residents, it does seem that unfortunately it's more of the north end that's got most of the mosquitoes, because I really have not had a problem at my house, and that's kind of what we hear when you're farther away from water. But even just having a bucket of water in your yard is bad, because they'll find it, and that's where they'll lay their eggs. So I just wanted to give you that update to let you know. Like I say, I only received one complaint, and it was a resident that lives outside of our city. But that if you choose that you would like to discuss this again, let us know. We'll put it back on a discussion meeting, and we'll let you discuss it from that point. So that's all I have to report to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Wynn. We'll move on to item 4, which is the council members' report. We'll start with Councilman McCall.
I went to the CAR meeting last evening, and that's about it.
Councilman Hanson.
I found out that it still rained in Oregon and Washington a lot. I was there this last week, and it rained on me every day. So, but I didn't have nothing for the city, but that was an adventure. So,
Thank you, Councilman Graff.
Let's see, since the last time I was in council meeting, I attended a ribbon cutting for Crystal Float Spa. That was fun to tour. I attended a library board meeting. Tomorrow, I believe, we're interviewing some candidates for the library board, and that's exciting. There was an arts council meeting somewhere in there that I attended. I also had a chance to present at the Utah Municipal Clerks Association conference, and that was a lot of fun. We've got to meet some clerks from around our great state and see Michelle, so that was a pleasure to do. And finally, I had a chance to meet with some members of our community who wanted to talk about bullying in our schools, and so I had a chance to have a good conversation with them. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Manzione.
Thank you. I have had several people contact me about the mosquitoes, so thank you for the report. And they did live in Tooele, so it's good to have that information so we can share that and get it out to those people who are affected. And I did also attend the Mid-Valley Highway Stakeholders Meeting, and I would echo what the mayor said. If you have things to say, this is the time to say it, not after it's over and done and we want to complain that it's too late then. So take advantage of that opportunity. And then I have a number of things to report in regards to the RDA. So I don't think it'll take more time than this. So I'm just going to send an email to everybody so you're kind of up to date on that later. So look for that this week. And that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. I attended the North Tooele Special Service District. There wasn't anything really significant. They're painting some of the light poles down there, so they have an issue, and I think this is a citywide issue, where people are hanging items on the poles and then it rips off the paint. So they're painting these poles, they look really nice, and then someone puts up their garage sale sign and it ruins the paint. So I just would like to encourage citizens to not put your garage sale signs on those poles and help keep them looking nice. I also had a few residents reach out to me about mosquitoes. I had some that don't live in the north end of town who didn't want us to ever join the abatement district, so I've kind of heard both sides of it, so I appreciate the update and knowing that we'll do a little bit more for that. I read about mosquitoes as well, that once it's cold enough that they die, and I think we're finally to that point. So hopefully the mosquitoes for this year are gone until the spring, and then we'll address that in the spring. And that concludes my report. So we will move on to our discussion items. The first one is a proposed amendment to Tooele City Code 7-14, Table 5 of the infill overlay zones regarding minimum lot sizes. This is presented by Andrew Agard, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Chairman Brady, members of the City Council. I received this application submitted by a Mr. Robert Jalbert, that's how he pronounces his name, requesting some changes to the infill area overlay. And before I launch into my spiel about the infill area overlay, does the City Council know what that is? Do you need me to talk about that before I explain the nature of Mr. Jalbert's request? if you'd like me to, I'm willing and happy to do so.
I mean, I'm familiar with it. I don't know if there's more detail that anyone wants.
It's just the property in a certain section of town,
Right.
the lots that's not full, right?
Yeah.
So there's different rules for them.
So the infill area overlay encompasses two areas in our downtown. It's the Area B and Area A. And these areas are typically the older sections of town. And lots within these areas were created way before our current zoning standards. Back then, they were created by surveys, winks and nods and handshakes. And we have a lot of strangely configured lots in this overlay. And the purpose of the overlay is to encourage development and to provide restrictions or reductions in development standards to assist development in some of these awkward lots. Okay, so that's the purpose of the overlay. Some of the reductions relate to building setbacks. It provides a reduction in front yard, rear yard, and side yard setbacks. It also increases lot coverage for some lots. So if a lot is smaller, you can cover more of the lot and build a house on it. It also provides a reduction in the cost of water if the property owner were to do the fee in lieu of, instead of providing their own water shares or water rights. However, the overlay does not do anything with lot size. And so in that case, lot size falls to the underlying zoning district, which is typically the R17 zone. There's some mixed-use Broadway in the overlay areas. However, there's no lot size restrictions in that particular zone. But the R17 requires 7,000 square feet. So that's what the infill area does. Is it's there to encourage development on older lots where we already have established infrastructure. The sewer systems are already in place. The water systems are in place. The roads are done. And it's a good place for development to occur rather than on the outskirts of the city where all those new infrastructure have to be installed. So Mr. Jalbert, I don't know if you can see this or not, but he owns the little blue property on the very western edge of Area B in the infill area overlay. It's immediately adjacent to Coleman Street and immediately south of, I believe, 400 South. If any of you are familiar with this property, I'm very familiar with it. I went to West Elementary and I walked by this property every day on my way to school. There's a little residential structure there tucked off to the west end of the property. Mr. Jalbert has the eastern half of the property that's sitting there vacant. Currently, the lot is about 0.28 acres, which is 12,196 square feet. And he would like to subdivide this lot and create a new lot for a home. And if he were to do that, he would have a lot size of about 6,098 square feet. So you can see the problem here is he doesn't have sufficient acreage because the property is zoned R17 and he has to have 14,000 square feet in order to subdivide. When Mr. Jalbert came into the community development office, I sat down with him and discussed options. What kind of options do you have? He asked about a variance. Well, variances are very difficult to achieve and probably not something you can do for lot size. He asked about changing the R17 zoning district to allow smaller lots. I said, well, that's difficult because the R17 zone is our biggest zone. I mean, most property in the city is zoned R17, so I don't know if we want to mess around with doing that to the entire city. But then we have the infill area overlay, and it's kind of a unique opportunity for us to consider tinkering with lot size and yet not affect the R17 zoning district in and of itself. So one of the things that he pointed out is that he would not be creating a unique situation in this area. The lots that are highlighted in red are currently the same size as the new lot that he would create, which would be about 0.14 acres. And so what he is proposing with his application is that I'm in the wrong place here. What he is proposing is that language be added to the table, basically addressing lot size. And that if a lot falls within the infill area overlay, that you may reduce the lot size up to 20% or 80% of the underlying zoning district. So if the property is zoned R17, the lot size could technically be reduced to 5,600 square feet. So that's what he is requesting. I did explain to him that if you do approach the text amendment procedure, then it will affect every lot potentially in geographic areas A and B of the infill area overlay, not just his lot. So he was aware of that. He really had no other options and just decided, well, let's go for the text amendment and see what the city council would be willing to do. So that's what's being requested. I haven't put it into the public process yet, but I have issued notice for the Planning Commission next week for a public hearing. But I wanted to bring it to the city council and apprise you of what's going on before your official meeting. If you have any questions, happy to answer them for you.
So the question I have, and it, to me is a safety issue. I mean, there's a reason why we had lot sizes, and what impact does that have on safety for having closer proximity to residents?
So in regards to closer proximity to the residents, I don't know if it would have a lot of changes in that regard because the lot width requirement would still be the same. And so much of the development standards in the R17 zone would not be impacted by this, just the lot size. I did some calculations in regards to density, how it would affect density, because typically the R17 zone permits about 6 units per acre, if you don't consider 20% for roads and stormwater basins. So if you had 1 acre and you were in the infill area overlay, with lot sizes, you would yield approximately 7 lots, whereas in a standard R17 zone, you'd yield 6. So the changes to density and so forth is pretty negligible, especially for smaller properties. You're not going to notice it. But for larger properties, you may notice a slight increase in density. But we have, in Copper Canyon, we have lots that are 5,000 square feet. I don't anticipate there'd be any difficulties in regards to safety.
Okay.
There's quite a few empty lots, though, in this area, right? Area A and B. I'm just trying to picture it in my head. Like Coleman, it says it goes to Second West, but there's quite a few fields and things that could be developed, right? And
Yes.
then that's always my concern is a change for one person, it's a change for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is more about water. We constantly hear about how water is such an issue in the community, right? And how would this affect water? Because then they could essentially build more houses than previously, right, in the current zoning?
They could. As I explained, the larger the property gets, you would see a slight increase of 1 or 2, maybe 3 lots, depending upon the acreage, above and beyond what the R17 zone indicates. In regards to water, they would have to go, anything more than 1 lot would require them to provide their own water rights. What the infill area does is in a situation where they're going to develop 1 vacant lot, it just reduces the cost of the water that they would purchase from the city. So they would still have to provide their own water if they're doing more than 1 lot. So the situation, I don't think, would change significantly between the standard R17 and the infill area overlay if this were to be adopted in regards to water. The situation would still be the same either way.
Thank you.
Excellent questions. Anything else I can answer for you?
I think that's...
I personally, I'm for doing the infill, and this allows us to do it so we don't have all those vacant lots, vacant grassy areas all over town. If someone's willing to divide their lot and put a house on it, as long as it's done the right way, I'm okay with that. Personally, I am.
Me too.
Roger, you had your hand up.
Yeah, this seems like it could be a perfect opportunity for the owner to take advantage of our new accessory dwelling unit ordinance and construct a detached dwelling unit. It can be up to 1,200 square feet. They wouldn't have to pay water rights. The impact fees are cut in half. It would be a great situation for that.
This property, though, right there, it's a duplex. At least that's how they were selling it online, this particular property. Because it's not a very big unit. But they're,
You're right.
on Utah Real Estate, it was listed as a duplex, a multifamily property. So is it a non-conforming?
A duplex requires 14,000
Right.
square feet in an R17 zone.
So even how it currently sits, it's still
Yeah,
not conforming?
it's a legal non-conforming
Illegal
duplex as it is now.
Okay.
So by subdividing it, I don't believe you'd be creating any new nonconformities. The
Okay.
nonconformity would still exist with the existing duplex. That does raise a question in regards to the ADU. If there's already 2 units on the property, could they do another ADU?
We would want to look at that,
Have
but
to look at
I
that.
think so. I think they could.
Doesn't the ADU, though, I thought I remember it stating something about the size of the second structure can only be a percentage of the primary structure, right?
I don't think it's a percentage.
Okay.
It's a range.
A range, okay.
I think it says it has to be smaller.
It does.
It has to
yeah.
be smaller, yeah.
I think 1,200 feet is the upper limit for a detached ADU.
And I think I was just not less than 9. Wasn't it 900?
House is tiny on that property.
Yeah.
Was the least that it could be? I think-
Smallest, probably about
Right,
that.
9, I
yeah.
think 9 was the smallest in 12.
And in our conversations, we did discuss an ADU, and he just stated he's because like Roger said, it's a viable option. I think he could have considered, he's interested in subdividing and building a single-family home on it. That's where he's going with it.
But on some of these lots that are like, I don't know, 20 acres or however big they may be, we would only anticipate a few more houses being.
Yeah, so I would anticipate that with 1 acre, you would generate 1 extra home beyond the standard zoning. So if you had 20 acres,
20 extra.
20 extra homes. So
Okay.
yeah, there is an increase in density on those larger properties.
Right, okay.
And there's a few of them in the overlay.
There are quite a few, yeah. Just, I pulled up the interactive map the county has, and yeah, there's a lot of,
Yep,
quite a
there
few.
are.
All right, any other questions, comments, guidance to, is this something we want to see kind of move through the process?
Yeah, I'd like to see how it plays out with Planning Commission and public comment, and just, I always like to get that feedback.
Perfect. Okay, everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we'll get it going through the
Okay,
process.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next discussion item, which is ordinance 2023-40, an ordinance of Tooele City amending Tooele City Code Section 11-1-12 regarding camping. This is presented by Adrian Day, the police chief.
Thank you, council. New homeless people are arriving in our city every day, and health and safety concerns are being reported more often. Since November of 2021, the police department has been dispatched over 350 times because of a concern with a vagrant person being brought by a business owner or a private citizen where they're at. During the same time frame, we've documented 27 camping violations and charged just 10 different people for camping, and most of these are from a homeless camp that was on Union Pacific property, or the construction, they were doing construction on a property near there, it was by there too. It's coming up, what are officers' concerns with charging camping? Why aren't we fixing the problem when it seems like a violation? And I feel the definition of camping, it can improve these questions and make it more clear when a violation's occurring. Holly, if we've got a picture of number 1, I want to give a few examples. This is a young woman who came here from Salt Lake, and she came to Veterans Park, and she had her blankets, her luggage, and pillows, and stuffed animals spread out like she was in her bedroom. She was there for a week. City staff was notifying us that she was there. She wouldn't say who she was. By our current definition of camping, she's against code if she's using a tent, fly, lean-to, or camping equipment. I guess the question is luggage, blankets, and a pillow camping equipment? Photo number 2 is a gentleman who keeps showing up here. I keep noticing calls on him. People don't want to be at Veterans Park because he leans against the wall. He has a bike, some stuff, a backpack. He told me personally he does not have to leave because he doesn't have a tent or camping equipment. I think he used our Wi-Fi to look at the code. The staff there at the Community Resource Center says he plugs into the outlet and when no one's looking with a cell phone. I don't have a photo for this next one. Paula, she was called in 3 times just a few days ago. She was sleeping on the sidewalk next to this same park. She was on the sidewalk. The runoff from the sprinklers were going into her sleeping bag. She was completely soaked. She only had a cane and a few items in a small pack she had. She had a stub from Portland, Boise. I don't know why she was here. She really couldn't answer. This is one where we would not take enforcement because she wanted help. She met with CRC staff, got dry clothes and went back home. This third picture, we got calls on this for 4 months. Man was living in this vehicle in trailer park area. It's a wide road. They said he wasn't affecting traffic, but they were just mad he was living there on the road. He was there for 4 months. This ordinance is a request to amend the definition of camping so it's clear and what is not. If there's any question to safety of what's happening, we responded to this morning at 5 o'clock.
Go!
126 North Broadway.
Well, Charlie 1014, if you can let fire know it's going to be the upstairs at School and Golf. Is anybody?
This is still under investigation. We believe a homeless man started this fire recklessly. The owner said it's been unlivable there for a while. In Exhibit A, it has the wording, vehicle is included in the camping, bedding material, establishing a temporary or permanent sleeping accommodations. I think it's sufficient wording where it's not for napping or watching sports events in the park. I'm coming back for the business meeting and going to ask for your approval of this ordinance and like to know if you have any questions, concerns, or anything you'd like changed.
Chief Day, it might help to let the council know that we had a good model for this ordinance. It's not something we just pulled out of the air. This is based on the Ogden City ordinance, and they have an excellent legal staff that I have a lot of confidence in. So,
yes, they have a big problem that they're currently dealing with and trying to address it.
Any questions or comments?
So this is, I mean, the ones you showed us is pertaining more to homeless people, but as you read the code, it's like if somebody has a camper in their driveway and somebody's living in it, that could possibly be part of this also, right?
This code does include private property for, I believe, over 5 days consecutively. We have not responded on one of these concerns unless it's been the property owner. I think this is to cover property when we can't get a hold of an owner or they don't care that garbage or health or sanitary conditions are spilling over, so we can address that.
we also have a pre-existing ordinance that prohibits living in an RV anywhere except in an RV park or campground. So
Right,
that's
yeah.
already on the books.
I seen that. I just, want to be careful not to infringe on people's rights. I mean, but I also want to handle that problem that we have, you know.
Sure.
Sure, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not find one where we've been fighting with an owner to, besides RV, but that wasn't even on his own property. He was parking on the road, settlement irrigation company property. Obviously, people leaving them on private property where they have permission.
Right.
That's
Yeah, because the one on at the irrigation company's property isn't necessarily like a homeowner or something, so. it
They've
has
actually
their
called
kids
the-
sleeping in their driveway or something for a few days or that kind of thing.
in an RV.
Yeah. I know somebody that they come down here, they live in Oregon, and they come down and live here for a month, and they park their motorhome in their brother's driveway and sleep there, and I just don't want to, of course, you guys probably wouldn't do anything about it because nobody's complaining.
Yeah,
But they'd be not legal to be there, so.
Yeah, that would technically, they don't have RV hookups, Yeah, it's hard to become aware of those without a reporting party, without a problem happening. And potentially a neighbor could call in because they're seeing an issue, and that could
Yeah.
cause us to...
And it sounds like we already have it in our ordinance anyway. You're not adding that, so.
Yeah.
The difficult part, though, is it does infringe upon, like, my rights. So there's a homeless lady I've seen that she sleeps in the bus stop.
Yeah.
And so anybody who wants to use the bus stop, to me, it's infringing upon their right to sit there and wait for the bus because they're camping. It's not camping right now, but I think this is great to stop preventing, or to prevent that before it becomes more of an issue. And just driving around town, I've seen it a lot more in not just the parks, but really any public area. It seems like there's more and more homeless people, and I've seen them in front of businesses. To me, that's infringing upon the business's right to have customers come, and unfortunately, people don't want to go to a business where there's a person sleeping right in front of it. So,
Agreed, yeah.
Correct.
so I think that's the goal of this, in my opinion, is to try to stop it before it becomes more of an issue. And
Correct. That's the most calls we've got is Veterans Park with the gentleman on the wall and a bench on the aquatic park. Taking over that bench, no one else could use it. He was spending all his time there with a backpack.
And that's probably a hot area because there's resources there, right? That during the day, there's a resource center that they're
Right.
utilizing. But
Yes. And that's the ones we have troubles with, is the ones who do not want to obey the rules of the resource center, so they're refusing their services. Those are the ones we're...
So what's the penalty that an officer could go out and ask them to move, and what's the penalty that we're giving to them?
They have 30 minutes is what's in the code, and it's a Class C misdemeanor.
So we're not going to arrest them?
Not if they move.
No, even
I guess
if they-
potentially if, like this young lady who refused to name herself, refused to move, said she didn't have to,
Right,
yeah, she ended up
being arrested.
being arrested that day. We couldn't identify her.
Well, I think the purpose of this change is a public safety issue, and it's something that we always have to balance, where how could it affect our private property owners. And I think this definition really is focused on people out in the public, and it becomes a hazard. It becomes a hazard not only for the person who is there, but all those around. And I think looking at the definition, I think it's a good way to give officers a little bit more leniency, and hats off to the guy who researched the code. I mean, you should have gone to law school. But I think it's a fair compromise that gives your officers the ability to enforce what we really want, which is more safety in our streets. And also safety for the people who are experiencing homelessness. It's not safe for them to be there. And it's not a good resource now, especially that we have some more resources in our city. So I support the changes in the code.
Any other questions or comments? Like Chief Day said, we're going to talk about this in the business meeting, and possibly vote on it if we feel that way, so.
Thank
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, item 6, Mayor, you'll have to remind me, do we have a closed meeting? Okay. And it's to discuss property acquisition and/or litigation? Okay. I will entertain a motion to move to a closed meeting.
So moved?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. We will recess and reconvene in the large conference room upstairs.